Good morning, soccer fans, football fans alike. Welcome in to Edging a Win here on YouTube. We got a good show for you here. It is Saturday, July 15th, and welcome on in. It is another weekend of soccer and football around the world, but mostly in the MLS and in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. The MLS is actually about to take a break for its first ever Leagues Cup. We'll get to that later. Women's World Cup about to kick off in less than a week. And as I mentioned, the CONCACAF Gold Cup is going on. The final is tomorrow, and guess what? The U.S. choked again. Shocker. But before we get into all of that, ladies and gentlemen, we have to introduce the face of the program, a man whose beads of sweat are made out of English football, owner of a signed Roger Gibbons soccer ball, and the only Browns backer in Sheffield, Mr. Ian Allen. Welcome in, sir. How are you doing?
I'm confused. I love a fantastic intro, Matt. Roger Gibbons?
Do you know who that is?
I no.
You should. Look him up. Oxford United player from, I think, the 1970s.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've shamed me already. Come on, you yellows, by the way. But yes, big Browns fan. But yeah, a lot to talk about. You mentioned all the stuff that's going on. There's also Scottish League started back up over here. So, pre-season friendlies going around in Europe. So it feels like football is stirring again over this side of the world. But look, let's not beat about the bush. Let's just say it is the death of US soccer. That is it. It is over for the United States men's national team. What shall we do with them? I think kick them out of FIFA, strip them of the World Cup, bring that World Cup over to England. And by the way, the last time we played Panama, we beat them 6-1.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in. Listen, I'll get on a rant later about the USA because I have one prepared. But first, let's talk about the league within the United States and the MLS. It is match day 26. And I know we have three best bets, and I think we're looking at a lot of goals today. So let's start. What do you got, Ian, in a good one in the Eastern Conference? I believe it's Atlanta United and Orlando City.
Yeah, exactly right, Matt. Yeah, so 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Over 2.5 goals is the bet I'm looking at in this one. You've got two sides that are in the playoffs, but both of these sides are coming off a loss in their last game. Atlanta, usually a very strong side at home, but they did lose 2-1 to New England on Wednesday. That was away from home, but they really threw that game away in the first 10 minutes. And then just couldn't get back into it. They created plenty of chances, but they just could not stick the ball away, which is unusual because usually finishing their chances is one of their big strengths, which shows they got 41 goals on the season, which is the second best in the MLS. Scoring from set pieces is one of their big strengths as well, and they usually like to attack sides through the middle and create a load of chances that way. Orlando, coming off a bruising 4-0 defeat to Real Salt Lake. I know you're going to talk about them later on, but they're usually a pretty good attacking side as well with 32 goals on the season. And like Atlanta, they are usually a side that make the most of the chances they created. So hopefully those last two games were a bit of a blip, and we're going to see plenty of goals in this one. There have been over 2.5 goals in 5 of the last 6 Orlando games, and there's also some pretty decent forwards on display from both sides here. Some defenses that are prone to errors as well, which is why bet number 1, I'm going for over 2.5 goals in Atlanta versus Orlando City. There we go.
Yeah, you talked about a lot of offense in this game, and quite honestly, they do have some good strikers up front and on display in this one on both sides. So, can you run down who's going to get these goals for us in this match? I mean, who you think is going to stand out tonight?
Yeah, let's start with Atlanta. Georgios Giacomakis, Greek forward, 10 goals on the season. Very good in the air and pretty good from set pieces as well. Thiago Almada is their playmaker, really. 8 goals. Very skillful young 22-year-old Argentinian attacking midfielder. He can play anywhere along the front line. As I say, plenty of goals, plenty of chances. Really skillful and has a very bright future. Orlando, they have a pretty similar player to Almada. They have Facundo Torres, 7 goals and very similar attributes. He's 23-year-old Uruguayan attacking midfielder. And up front, Duncan Maguire. 22-year-old US striker, 7 goals on the season. No one's really talking about this guy. He's kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit behind the likes of Pereira. But this guy's had a really good breakout year. 7 goals. It's still a little bit raw. He's got a lot to finish on, but looks like a really good sort of penalty box finisher. A guy that's going to get in there and stick the ball away. Pretty good in the air as well. So hopefully there's another striker for the US conveyor belt. 22-year-old, got plenty to improve. The lookout for all 4 of those ones, and hopefully a goal apiece for all of them will get us our bet quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think there's both some good strikers on each of those teams. I do like that bet. Orlando City, recently their games have been going over, and so the same with Atlanta. But love your first bet. With that said, it'll probably be 0-0.
Probably. They always seem to be.
It will. Listen.
Or there'll be 2 goals in the first 10 minutes and then nothing.
Yeah, I saw that last week. We had that in one game, which was a little ridiculous. But listen, I want to talk about my first best bet here in the MLS. I think it is with one of the most surging teams in the MLS, and that is Real Salt Lake, which, just kind of on the side note, I hate the fact that they're called Real. I think that's the stupidest name in the MLS. It's just ridiculous. But I am going to take them and the New York Red Bulls over 2.5 goals. That's at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Real Salt Lake team is on a roll. They have only lost 1 match in their last 14 overall, and they're unbeaten in their last 8 MLS matches. In 6 of those matches, the game hit over 2.5 goals, and now on the year, they have the most overs of any team in the league, with 16 of their 23 matches going to the over. Now, they just sit a whopping 4 points behind St. Louis SC for first, and they're going to face a bottom team from the Eastern Conference in the New York Red Bulls. Now, New York has not been consistent over its last 5 matches. They're just 2-2-1, but they have been consistent in going over the total. In fact, their last 5-0 to the over. Now, Ian, I know what you're going to say. Hasn't the Red Bulls gone to the under in 12 of their last 13 matches away? And to that, I would say, shut up. Because listen, the Red Bulls average a league worst 1.5 goals per match away. And yes, they've only scored 5 goals in 10 matches this season on the road. But the last match they played versus a very good Columbus Crew team, using your words, they scored and the game went over the total. This Salt Lake team is giving up more goals at home than they're actually scoring, and the Red Bulls are giving up a ton of goals on the road. I think it's the perfect storm here, and I think we get a high-scoring affair in this one to get us over the 2.5 goals.
Yeah, just quickly on that thing, you touched it at the start. I used to like it more when the team names were like, they used to go for something unique. Now they just all seem to be reverting back to like City, United, or Inter, or something like that. Go for something like, I don't know.
The Pittsburgh Maulers.
Yeah, something like that. Thunder Gods, or something like that. But yeah, look, I mean, I also think Real in Salt Lake are a pretty good side as well. But looking at the Red Bulls, yeah, not really very good this season, are they? But they are only 3 points out of a playoff spot. You think they're going to get any chance of them getting up there this season and nicking into the playoffs?
No, they're not. Listen, and here's the reason why. They have to play still the top 4 teams in the East at the moment. And at least one more time this season, they're going to have to go against the likes of Real Salt Lake tonight, and then a surprising Austin team out of the West, who I think is actually underplaying the talent on the field right now. So, listen, this New York Red Bulls team, as I mentioned last week, they are the equivalent to Oxford United, which you took personally. However, even Oxford United, as a compliment to you, pulled off some magic down the stretch and stayed out of, relegation. I don't see the Red Bulls doing the same. I think they actually do worse down the stretch against some hard teams, and they find themselves on the outside looking in.
There it is, isn't it? There it is. He can't resist it, can he? Having a little dig at Oxford United. Yes, we didn't have a good season last season, Matt. We know it, but you don't have to bring it up. I come on these live streams. I waste my Saturdays I could be outside enjoying the freezing cold, pissing down rain, British summer. But no, I come on these live streams as a favor, and all you do is shit on Oxford United.
Well, I'm glad the Cleveland weather got to you today. All right, that's my my first best bet of the MLS. I know you got one more before we go international with CONCACAF here. What are you looking at with your second best bet today?
Yeah, so second bet for me, third overall. We're looking at Minnesota, boring name, United versus Los Angeles Football Club. And that is 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, we're looking at goals, over 2.5 goals in this one. Let's start by looking at LAFC. They've been in a bit of a slump, and it's been well documented since losing in the final of the Champions League. But their fans will be hoping that they've snapped out of it with the 3-0 win that they had on Wednesday. Unfortunately, for you and me, Matt, that was against our boys of St. Louis, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they usually are the dominant side in the West, but I'm just not sure they're quite back to their best just yet. We might have to wait to see that till after this kind of break mid-season. And this is a tricky game for them away at Minnesota, and it's a Minnesota side that had a very impressive 3-0 win themselves against Houston. Minnesota will also be strengthened with the likes of Dwayne Sinclair coming back in goal from his stint with Canada, and with new signing Timu Pukki up front. Very good signing for the MLS. Not on the likes of Messi, obviously, but this guy's been prolific in the English League with Norwich and with international football with Finland. So expect him to go well in the MLS. I would say very good goal scorer. Minnesota are also a side very comfortable giving up possession and playing, without the ball, which is something that suits both sides, because LFC are going to try and dominate this game in possession. They're a powerhouse side, and they'll be hoping that the firepower that they have with Bonega and with Vela and the skill of the likes of Tillman and Cifuentes will be able to control this game and dominate this Minnesota side. I think it's going to be a high-scoring draw, maybe 2 each, but maybe LAFC will nick it by 3-2. But either way, it should be a pretty comfortable over 2.5 goals in this one.
Yeah, I like it, and as we saw LAFC, put in 3 goals in the last 20-plus minutes against St. Louis SC. I don't really have much to talk about in terms of this game itself. I kind of want to use this as a transition to maybe go into our St. Louis SC team itself and talk about how that game looked. I was very disappointed in how they played. It was a very boring match, in my opinion. They did not look good. They looked methodical. I don't know if because it was midweek if that played anything into it, or the fact that they knew they were going up a better team that was on the field than what showed in the standings, and they kind of laid down a bit on the road. I don't know what was going on in there. Do any of your thoughts on Ian on maybe tactically were there issues?
I mean, when I saw the team selection, it really baffled me, and I get it. You want to kind of maybe, you're playing a good side away from home. You maybe want to keep the game tight or stuff like that. But I just thought that it was a very conservative, almost very negative team selection by Bradley Carnell, and almost undone the good work that this team's done over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Almost it seemed like they're putting this game, that LAFC game, they're almost like they're trying to ignore that game to try and rest players ahead of this Inter Miami game at the weekend, which I just think is absolutely crazy. With a break coming up, with an off-season break coming up in the next few days, you don't need to rest these players. I don't see why you would rest these players. And if anything, you would rest them against an Inter Miami side who are struggling down the bottom. Why are you not playing a Denoran? Why are you not playing a Zeal Jackson? Why are you not playing Parker at the back? Why are you not playing Stroud? These are players that have impressed. Giacchini has not been a goal threat in the last few games. As a St. Louis fan, you want to see your best team going toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the MLS and seeing what they can do. And I think that was a really disappointing team selection, and I think he got it wrong, as we say, with the 3-0 defeat.
Yeah, I think that's the first time we've seen a managerial mistake all year with St. Louis. Jackson was coming off his first ever goal. I don't understand why he's not in there. Now, with that said, they have to play LAFC one more time at home. So I don't know if maybe the only thing I could think is maybe they're just trying not to show their hand, because later in the playoffs of the MLS, maybe they'll see them further down the road, and they don't want to do that. But you're going to have to play him again. So, I mean, what's the point? Are you going to lay down and die in that one as well? I don't get it.
I'll just put it into like, if I compared it to Premier League, there's not an apples to apples comparison, I know, because of squad side. But let's say Man City played Liverpool and they rested their first team players to then put them in for a game against Luton. At the weekend.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why he's done it. And you can make excuses. And I heard that one as well of not showing all your cards. But it's like, what are you trying to hide? Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah. It ends up being 0 points. And I think that hurts St. Louis SC. Coming into today, they play Miami. Just to transition real quick. I honestly think, and I hate to say this, I think St. Louis SC is going to fall tonight. Miami's been struggling. We know that. I just think that St. Louis SC has been treading water for too long. The West is so close in points. I think 11 points are from first to out of the playoffs. That's all it is just 11 points. Whereas on the East side, or the Eastern Conference, I mean, it was 11 points at one point between Cincinnati and second place. I also do want to point out, and you kind of alluded to this, that this is the last regular season match of the MLS. Not till August 20th, as the Leagues Cup is going to start next week. And honestly, if I was St. Louis City, I would purposely lose in the Leagues Cup and give this team 3 weeks of rest for the whole team to kind of regroup, get some guys like Klaus healthy, and not overplay yourselves for a whole month in something that honestly doesn't matter in terms of MLS regular season.
Yeah, I just want to just quickly before we move on. We've shit on this St. Louis side a little bit in the last few sets, but I just want to say there have been some good results in there. That 1-0 win against Toronto was a game where they didn't play well, but they found a way to win. And Toronto are not a very good side, but that looked like it was going to be a draw. You back to draw for all the money in the world, but they found a way to win a game. Azeel Jackson, wonderful goal to win that game, and that just kind of carried on the momentum. Lovren returned off the bench against LAFC. That's a big player coming back into the side, so that's important for this team. Hopefully, he can stay fit. And if they can, and they've been very strong at home, and if they can get up a goal against this Inter Miami side, I think they'll go on to win the game. They've been good in front of their own fans, and in some way, if they can get the win, they put the pressure on themselves to do it. Will take the sting off that 3-0 defeat and justify it in some fans' eyes.
Yeah, I agree, but I do think they need a little bit more rest. Leuven coming back was nice to see on the field. Yeah. I'd like to get klaus back on the field and see if we can't get that offense going a little bit more. But enough about St. Louis SC. There's one other game that I do want to touch on, Ian, and that is going to be Cincinnati, top of the East, facing Nashville in third place. Listen, Nashville has been in horrible form. They've lost 4 of their last 5 matches. And although Cincinnati has not been in great form, they do get to play this match, thankfully for their fans at home, where they have not lost all season long. 10 wins, only 1 draw. I think Cincinnati's going to make a statement, honestly, in my opinion, today. And I think the statement's going to be, hey, you're going to have to come through this city if you want to win in the playoffs, and it's going to be hard.
I disagree. Nashville coming off a really bad week. Yeah, I mean, I kind of cursed them a little bit with my pick, but they lost 1-0 to the Fire, and then they had a really bad result in midweek as well. Some red cards in that one, I think. The Cincinnati side, they have been floundering a little bit. They've been struggling a little bit as well, and I think that they got a really good win. They needed to nick a win, edge a win, if you like, in midweek, and they did with a last-minute goal. So that was a good result for them. But I think they probably will edge it again tonight. I don't think it's going to be anything pretty, because I don't think Nashville will make this game exciting in any way, shape, or form. I think this could be a nervy one. This could end up being a 0-0, maybe a 1-1, something like that. But Cincinnati might just edge it by a 0-0 or something like that. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good game.
Well, I relish the fact that I can say I told you so in our next live stream, since we're on both sides. And speaking of I told you so, let's transition a little bit into the CONCACAF before we sign off. Let's talk Gold Cup, and it is my bet of the week here. Gold Cup, Mexico versus Panama. I am going to take the Mexico -1.5. I'm going Mexico -1.5. You might have thought I was going to take over 2.5 goals, but I am going to take Mexico -1.5 over Panama here at the Gold Cup Final. And Ian, I think we both backed this Mexico team to possibly win the Gold Cup a few weeks back, and I'm going to stick with my gut on this one. Taking a -1 at even money, and I think that this is going at worst to be a push as Mexico will take care of Panama. The Mexico team has only allowed 1 goal all tournament, and that was to Qatar in that defeat. And honestly, in that game, they really, in my opinion, could have cared less to do anything as they were already through the group stage. They have outscored in total their opponents 12-1 over the 5 matches, whereas Panama has conceded a goal in every match but one, which ironically was against Qatar. Now, I was on the Mexico team out for blood coming into this tournament, and I think if they win this one comfortably, maybe 3-1, or it ends up being an open game with a lot of goals, or 2-0 if it ends up being a little bit more defensive-minded. Now, with that said, here comes the I told you so. I told you that last week at this time, 7 days ago, Panama was going to beat the USA, and I'm not going to say I told you so, but I'm going to say I told you so. I like their style of play, and honestly, I would not be surprised if Mexico, who's only conceded 1 goal, does concede in this final. But I also think, I think a good bet here is to throw some pizza money on Panama over half a goal. But I do think Mexico edges a win, wins the Gold Cup after a USA embarrassment, and I will get to say I told you so again.
You and I remember this very differently, Matt. I remember the live stream last week with you standing along a little perch with a George Washington mask on, eagle on your arm here like this, and you going on talking about how USA are going to smash everybody and all that sort of stuff. So you and I remember that very differently. And I seem to be the one saying, take it easy. I think Panama have got a good chance here. But, maybe we'll have to agree and disagree.
I think you're out of your mind. I 100%. Next time I'm gonna. I thought about recording it and putting it, like, cutting away right now to a video of you saying USA is gonna win. But no, it was a good game. But yeah.
Sorry. You are right. You were very, very cautious about the USA in this tournament, especially when you weren't confident about them against Canada and you weren't confident against Panama. And you were right to be like that because the USA came out and played 2 very lackluster games. I think in this one tonight, Mexico are going to be on the weekend. Mexico are going to be too strong for this Panama side. They've been just so solid in this tournament. They've clearly gone out with a bit between their teeth and thought, we need to win this one. We've had a lot of turmoil, a lot of people kind of like giving us a hard time. We need to go out and show our fans that we're still the dominant side in CONCACAF, and they put on a good show. They were way too good for Jamaica. And this Jamaica side, everyone kind of overrating them as favourites, and Mexico just went in and really bossed them. Amazing free kick goal in that one. And Panama are going to have to do what they've done in the other games and be very, very disciplined, very solid, very hard to beat. They do have some players that can score goals in there as well and create chances, but they're going to have to probably play without the ball for large periods in this one because Mexico are going to pretty much dominate all areas in this game, I would imagine.
Yeah. Now, with that said, I'm going to take a minute here and talk about USA soccer if I have some time, Ian. Is that okay? Can I talk about USA?
I will. I'll put my fingers in my ears and I'll allow it.
Well, here, listen. I know that USA did not have their best squad out there, but that is my first complaint. Why didn't you have your best squad out there? Who are you helping not putting your best players out on the field? This is an absolute embarrassment that you get outplayed by a country that only has 4.3 million people in its entire country. Listen, Panama, 4.3 million people. Do you know, Ian, that 4.2 million players are registered with the United States Soccer Association alone in the United States? That is ridiculous. Now, the USA, after this embarrassment, will go into 2024. They are going to play in Copa America next year, and I think they're yet again going to be embarrassed. And you might say to yourselves, well, the Gold Cup really wasn't warming up the team for anything. They were just seeing whether or not the youth they have is going to be good moving forward. And they kind of used it, essentially, you can make the argument, as a practice tournament. They will probably most likely use that 2025 Gold Cup as a warm-up. Okay, fine. But did you know this? The 2025 Gold Cup is being used as a world warm-up tournament as preparation for the 2026 World Cup. Teams such as France, Spain, England, Argentina, Brazil, and others will be invited to the 2025 Gold Cup, and it's going to move from 15 countries to 24 countries. So good luck, USA. You now have that disappointment and embarrassment of losing this Gold Cup. You're going to get embarrassed in Copa America, and if you think you're going to have any chance of going to the final in that Gold Cup in 2025, you are mistaken.
I'm just going to take a different tact on it, and I think a lot of what you said is right. I feel that they have clearly had an agreement with the players and the clubs of these players, saying that we're going to play this is the squad we're going to play in the Nations League, and then you can have all these players back to join your preseason friendlies and join your pre-season camps, and we're going to go with a B and C squad in the Gold Cup, and that's the biggest worry for this USA side. Is this B and C side looked when they played against any side that was somewhat organized, Canada, Panama, Jamaica, they really struggled. Like nobody really sort of. You could only make the argument maybe of Ferreira. Matt Turner we know is a good goalkeeper, but Ferreira's the only guy that's come out of this with any quality. He scored a really good goal in the game against Panama. He's the only one that's maybe his stock has risen a little bit. The other guys coming off the back of this one, of the game against Panama, the likes of Mihailovic, Vasquez, Bucio, these guys have got to go away and think we've got to improve a lot if we're going to be pushing this US national side. Because if you look at the side that played in the Nations League, such a strongest. I mean, that side is like night and day from the side, this B side. It's unbelievable the difference in quality. You've got the likes of like Balogun, Reyna, Pulisic, Weir, Weston McKennie, Robinson, Sergio Dest. These are quality players, and but the drop off behind that is a worry. That is a big worry now for the United States. They've really got to that. That has got to be the next thing that they've got to do is raise this kind of B team up. So they've got backups and they've got like reserves behind this first 11, which I actually think is pretty decent.
Yeah, well, but that's, I mean, to your point, to somewhat my point, my worry is, we're 3 years away from the World Cup. So all those guys that played in the Nations League semis and finals where they won it, not all those guys I think are going to make the World Cup 3 years. They're going to be weathered. They're going to, some of those guys might end up being, not making the squad, and you always have to take in account for injuries. I think the biggest problem is depth, and the USA was, revealed as not having depth, which is crazy. Again, 4.2 million people in the U.S. Soccer Association in the United States, and we can't find 11 guys to beat a Panama team. So I'm going to leave it at that. Go ahead. Final thoughts on...
I'm sorry, just to rant on about it, and sorry if it's going on again, but again, we've talked about this over and over again. But I do think the fact that the United States get the chance to play some of the better sides in the world is going to really help this side in the long run. It's a transitional period, which is frustrating now, because I think that there were some good things that Callahan did with this United States side. But now you go back to Berhalter. So now you're in this state of like, what are we going to do? The likes of like Gio Reyna are going to be thinking, am I actually going to get a game now? Because he got completely frozen out by Berhalter in the past.
Sure.
And but I think that the fact that they get to play against some good sides in Copa America and the fact they can play against some better sides from Europe will really help this United States side. But and because we saw in the World Cup when they played a Netherlands team who were good but not great, that they just couldn't handle that step up in quality. They did it against England, to be fair, but they couldn't do it when they played against the Netherlands. And so that's always going to be the thing with the CONCACAF sides is they need to play better competition on a regular basis before people are really going to start taking them seriously to win tournaments.
Yeah, no, I just think if you're the United States, don't you want confidence going into Copa America that you're coming off a tournament win? And because if you lose here, which they did, and you lose you lose in Copa America, and I'm not saying they do because they are going to put a better side hopefully out there. But going into that next Gold Cup, I mean, if you lose three straight tournaments, and I'm not being pessimistic here, but until this team shows me that they are going to go deep in tournaments against good sides, I have no confidence in the world, especially after losing to a Panamanian side, like that they're going to even get out of a group stage with those teams.
And from a snooty European over here, well, not even, are we European anymore? I guess we're in Europe, but not technically. As a snooty English man over here, who turns his nose up at CONCACAF, when I hear on podcasts when people are talking up saying Canada are good, Panama are good, Jamaica are good, they're not.
They're not. So embarrassing. Listen, before we sign off, two things that I didn't even talk to you off air about, but I just would love to know your thoughts. You kind of touched on him for a second. Pulisic signed a 4-year deal with AC Milan. Any thoughts on that? Does he bring anything to AC Milan? In which, I mean, he didn't do much at Chelsea, so they didn't even use him. What's he going to do at AC Milan?
Yeah, I think it's great. I really think he needs to be. Fitness is a big issue with Christian Pulisic if he can stay injury free, but he needs games. He needs regular games, and I think AC Milan is going to be certainly a side that's going to use him more than Chelsea did. And I'm excited to see how he goes. There's also been talk about Weston McKennie maybe going to was it Borussia Dortmund, something like that, I think. Which will be a good move for him. Borussia Dortmund desperately needs to replace.
I'm sorry, no. Leeds signed Juventus. Leeds signed Juventus in US. Yeah, Leeds.
I thought that Leeds have lost.
Oh, I'm sorry. He went to Juventus. He went to Juventus.
Yeah, a Leeds player went to Juventus, but I thought there was talk of Weston McKennie going to Borussia Dortmund, which would be a good signing for him because Borussia Dortmund have got a hole in that midfield with. Bellingham going to Real Madrid, so that would be good for McKennie. Just one other thing, just in the world football, Declan Rice, 105 million signing to Arsenal was confirmed today. And I know you just touched on it just before we sign off, but we're going on a little break after this one because you've got the what was it again? The Open Cup?
The Leagues Cup. The Leagues Cup.
Just to explain quickly what the format is again on the Leagues Cup.
Yeah, so they're trying to take the World Cup format, really. The League, Liga MX and the MLS, they're trying to make a World Cup. There's 45 teams, I think, in total. They've put them in groups of 3, and they'll play 2 games of group play against the other teams. They'll end up going into a World Cup style format knockout round, and I don't know. They'll play for a McDonald's Happy Meal toy come August 20th that nobody's gonna care about. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it'll be fun to watch. I do like it from the aspect that MLS is gonna. Like, the teams itself will get a break. I think it's really going to help St. Louis City. I think having a whole month off to get some guys healthy and 100% is going to be fabulous.
And play some of those players that haven't been playing.
Yeah. The last thing I was actually going to mention before we signed off actually is happening during this break before the Leeds Cup happens, and that is the MLS does have an All-Star game, and it's happening on Wednesday. And guess who they play? They play Arsenal. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think the chances are of MLS All-Stars beating Arsenal? And I can't imagine Arsenal puts their top guys out there.
I think Arsenal will play a pretty strong side. This is pre-season friendly for Arsenal, so I think you'll see a rotated side. But I think you'll see all the. I mean, you could see Declan Rice making his debut for Arsenal in that one. I think you'll see the likes of Kai Havertz playing. I think you'll see a pretty good Arsenal team. They might switch it, like to play like 11 players change at halftime or something like that. They might make a big change like that, but I think you'll still see a pretty good Arsenal side, and I think you'll get good value for your money if anybody goes to that game and stuff. It should be a fun occasion, it's interesting that they do that with the All-Star break, that they play a Premier League side or a top European side. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. That'll do it for us here on Edging a Win. From a programming standpoint, I think we're taking the next 2 weeks off, and then we will be back on August 5th, which is the start of the EFL, and that will be the EFL Championship, League One, and League Two, including new League Two member Wrexham, Ryan Reynolds' team, who is actually favored to go up to League One, where they can kick the ass of Whitcomb and Oxford in the same season.
No. Oxford are going up this season. They'll be in the championship side by the time we're...
Thank you to Ian from Ian OUFC. Socials are on the screen there. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button. For those of us here at Edging to Win, appreciate your time. Make sure to go subscribe to our new soccer channel, which is Edging to Win on YouTube. But in the meantime, in the next couple of weeks, sit back, relax, enjoy the start of Women's World Cup action, the Leagues Cup, and we will see you on August 5th for the start of English football.